Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our Immb International Research Talk. We are very fortunate today. We have Dr. Haytham Ali from the Department of Animal and Veterinary Sciences, College of Agricultural and Marine Sciences, Sultan Qaboos University, Sultanate of Oman with us. The title of Dr. Haytham's talk today is Health and Safety Hazards when Working with Animals. So before we start our talk today, I would like to invite Prof. Dr. Heo Chongqing to give a brief introduction on our speaker, Dr. Haytham Ali.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to Dr. Haytham Ali. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, for the opportunity to introduce our speaker today. And I would like to introduce Dr. Haytham Ali. Dr. Ali is an associate professor and head of the Department of Animal and Veterinary Sciences at Sultan Qaboos University in Muscat, Oman. He earned his PhD in veterinary pathology from Zagazig University in Egypt, with research focusing on viral diseases in cattle. His expertise span veterinary anatomic pathology, histopathology, and molecular pathology. Dr. Ali has held various academic roles, including a postdoc fellowship in clinical microbiology and immunology at Umeå University in Sweden. And he held positions at universities in Egypt and Libya as well. His research has contributed significantly to veterinary science with numerous publications on infectious diseases, animal pathology, and molecular diagnostic. Dr. Ali is also active in research projects investigating animal health issues in Oman, such as contagious caprine, pneumonia, and rabies. He has presented his findings at international conferences and earned multiple awards for his scientific contributions, including a scholarship from the Cancer Research Foundation of Northern Sweden. Additionally, he has co-supervised PhD and MSc students and is a member of various professional organizations. So I actually met Dr. Haytham Ali at in Penang. Yeah? In Penang, it was a conference organized by the Malaysian Society of Parasitology and Tropical Medicine. So we had a good time, and thanks, Dr. Ali, for accepting our invitation to speak for Immb. Thank you very much. Thank you. Back to you, Aisha.
Okay, so now I would like to invite Dr. Haytham Ali to begin his presentation titled Health and Safety Hazards when Working with Animals. The floor is yours, Dr. Haytham.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Hugh. Thank you, Madam Aisha. It was a pleasure meeting you in Malaysia last year, I guess. And yes, it was a very nice conference. Again, you know my name now is Haytham Ali, and I know the topic is not related to, I guess most of the people are in the field of entomology, I think, and parasitology, but I tried to be a little bit, I will include a little bit of parasites, but I think people who work with parasites usually are in relation with animals in many cases. So I thought this topic might be informative for specialized and also non-specialized persons. So I will start with the title of my topic, which is the health and safety hazards when working with animals. I just would like to show you where is Oman located. It's on the western part of Asia. So here is Malaysia and here is Oman. I don't know I think we are 6 hours difference. So thanks for Google Meet and the internet. We can communicate easily. Oman is mostly a desert and mountain terrains, and it have a very long coast, part on the Gulf of Oman and part on the Arabian Sea, part of the Indian Ocean. Probably you are much more knowledgeable about geography than me. By the way, originally I am from Egypt, but I have been working in Oman for the last 7 years. So I'm Egyptian and now resident of Oman. As you can see here, some terrains from Egypt. We have mountains, we have lakes in between the mountains, desert and camels. Also, Oman is very rich in wildlife. We have one of the biggest hubs for green sea turtle, a nesting place. Also, we have a huge fauna of marine life, including dolphins, whales, and a lot of different species of fish. So what are the aspects that I'm going to cover today? Or we will talk a little bit about the zoonotic disease and how to reduce the risk of such diseases. I will also talk about the physical injuries related to animals and how to control it or to avoid it. I will briefly talk about personal protective equipment and also about the proper personal hygiene when around animals. So the first thing I would like to have a few definitions. I'm sure most of you are aware of it, but we have one term that is called high-risk group. So high-risk group are the population that are considerably have a higher risk of contracting a disease. An example, veterinarians, veterinary practitioners, animal handlers are a high-risk group for zoonotic disease. And zoonotic diseases are the diseases that are transmitted from animals to humans. This also includes the foodborne disease. So some of the diseases that can transmit it from animals to humans through food. An example here in Oman is there is a culture of drinking raw camel milk, non-pasteurized or unpasteurized camel milk, and this unfortunately lead to high risk of brucellosis. I'm not sure if I think brucella is available also in Malaysia, so it's a bacterial disease which have a lot of implications. Another high risk group are people who are working in relation to animals, like in case of wet marks or live animal marks. Again, in Oman here, they have a culture of bullfighting, and a huge, massive population of people attend these bullfighting events. And most of them are, again, in a high risk of transmitting or contracting diseases such as brucella. So a high risk group are the people who are in a high risk of contracting infection. Another important term is reservoir. And these are living hosts of a certain species. It could be an animal or even a plant. And the pathogen can survive in these hosts. In most of the cases, not always, but many cases, the pathogen survives without causing a disease in this host. So a reservoir is an animal or a plant that carry or store the pathogen inside. In many cases, it will not show any clinical signs or a disease. As you can see here, many wildlife are acting as a reservoir, including oryx. Oryx is also one of the national animals here in Oman. It was going to extinct, and they built reservoirs, and now its population is really increasing. Bats also are one of the reservoirs all over the world. Of course, mice and rat, and wildlife like foxes. And reservoirs require what we call as a vector. So if you look at the diagram on the left, the uninfected vector will feed on the reservoir, become an infected vector, and then it will transmit the infection to humans or to other animals. So in the late 1800s, they started a concept originally called as One Medicine, and now it's called as One Health. And this concept of One Health required a collaboration between veterinarians, physicians, and ecologists in order to protect the health of all species. So a healthy animal will be reflected on a healthy humans, and also a healthy environment will reflect on also a healthy human. So again, we are all in the same boat. We need to work together to provide a better health for humans and animals as well. So this is called the One Health concept, and nowadays there is a lot of research towards the application and reaching the One Health of all species. This is an example of the rule of One Health to combat epidemics. So if you have an infected animal, this animal become diseased, you will have a cost of treating this animal, and also the diseased animal can transmit the infection to a human. So again, another cost of treating the human being. This will raise the cost of the for management, treatment, plus also the loss of life, because some of these zoonotic diseases are fatal and the humans can die. So if you cut the cycle from the beginning, for example, by vaccinating this animal, you will prevent the transmission of the disease, you will protect the human, reduce the cost of medical needs, and also reduce the fatalities. So it will give a better health and cost saving by just vaccinating the animals against this zoonotic disease. These are estimated economic costs of some outbreaks. For example, the SARS, or severe acute respiratory syndrome, between 2002 and 2003 costs around 40 billion US dollars to control this. This includes the medical losses, treatments, hospitalization. Also, they have an equation to calculate the human losses because they work and produce money, and etc. For avian influenza, both are avian influenza, H5N1, H1N1, the cost is between 30 billion US dollars and 50 billion US dollars. So you can see, and most of these viruses nowadays can be a little bit controlled by vaccination, by vaccinating the birds, or vaccinating the humans in some other cases, like in case of Zika virus, or the Ebola is also preventable by different means. We will talk about it later. So again, a vaccination of animal will protect the humans. Another graph showing the economic costs of COVID-19. You remember 2022, we all exposed to this crisis of COVID-19. The US estimated economic losses reached 16 trillion US dollars due to the pandemic. The European, again, estimated their loss by 3.7 trillion US dollars. So what are zoonotic diseases? As I speak in the beginning of the lecture, these are pathogens or germs that spread between animals and people. In 2001, one paper published that there is around 1,415 human infectious organisms. Out of these infectious organisms, 61% are of zoonotic origin. They can transmit from animals to humans. So you can see how huge is the implication of zoonotic diseases on humans. So I will very briefly talk a little bit about the sources of infection. For example, we have livestock. These include the sheep, goat, and cattle, camels. And then we have pet animals, and these act as a source of infection to humans. On the other side, we have the wildlife found as a reservoir, including the foxes, bats, and I think in Malaysia you have the monkeys and the malaria. You have this cycle which do a lot of headache to humans. So you can see here there is a lot of infection. I just wrote the important one, like the MERS, SARS, rabies virus, the salmonella. This is a foodborne and also zoonotic disease. Brucellosis is a common issue here in the Middle East, and we will talk about it briefly. Toxoplasma is more common in let's say modernized area where people have pet cats, especially I don't know in Malaysia, but here in Oman, for example, ladies always love to have a cat in their house, and they are mostly exposed to the problem of toxoplasma. So we will very quickly go through some important zoonotic diseases. We have the family of the coronavirus. This is a huge, highly mutable viruses that can change their structure eventually. We recall we had outbreaks of SARS and MERS. This is severe acute respiratory syndrome and Middle East respiratory syndrome. Both of them, the reservoirs are the bats. You remember at the beginning, we told the reservoir, these are animals that will carry the pathogen without showing clinical signs. A spillover, or we call the virus, jumped from the reservoir to a host. In case of SARS, we had the civet cat, and in some wet marks, I assume in China, we have the civet cat as they use it in wet marks. So the virus jumped from the bat to the civet cat, mutated, and now it can infect humans. The second problem is an infected human can infect another human. So this is the main issue. If the transmission of the virus from human to human transmission, this will exponentiate the problem and make it more nasty. Recently, we had here in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, we had what we call as the MERS, or the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus. Again, the infection jumped from, or the COVID, or the coronavirus jumped from the bat to the camels, and then from the camels to humans, and started their own human-to-human transmission. We all recall the COVID-19 or the SARS coronavirus 2. A lot of research reported the transmission of infection from humans to animals. So infected people with COVID-19 transmitted the infection to their pet animals, including dogs and cats, even reported in lions. Until now, there is no clear evidence that the infection is transmitting from animals to humans. We couldn't reach to, as far as I know, the reservoir is still unknown. But based on our experience with the coronavirus, most probably you will find an animal host in the cycle. We don't know, it's not clear. So here I just summarized the clinical signs for the MERS. These are include diarrhea, cough, headache, and high fever. In case of the SARS, there is also the respiratory part, the coughing and sneezing, along with the fever and the myalgia or pain on the muscles. You all are expert now. We are all expert in the combating corona. Wear our masks, use the antiseptic alcohols, and minimize the aggregation of people. These all will protect you or minimize the infection. Also, one of the important things is to minimize the contact with the animals, suspected animals. In case of MERS with camels, in case of SARS with the civet cat. Johns Hopkins University released this dashboard for COVID-19, and it was updated. Actually, it was 24 hours updated, but now they stopped the update on this date, 3rd of October 2023. And here you can see the total deaths due to COVID-19. It hit almost 7 million, so 6.8 million deaths happened due to COVID-19. This is the number of vaccination, around, I don't know how to pronounce this, 13 billion doses of vaccine. You can use this link to reach if you are interested in to the dashboard and look by a certain country. So it will give you all these data, number of cases, the number of total cases, and the total vaccines per country. It's a very detailed dashboard for whoever is interested in this number. But you can see COVID-19, as I told you, I assume it have a zoonotic origin, and it lead to this pandemic, literally shut down the world, and the total deaths reached almost 7 million. So we will move now to another viral disease. It's a bit neglected, although it's a very severe and problematic disease. It's called Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever virus. This virus is transmitted by ticks, Haytham species ticks, and it is transmitted from the wild rabbits, some species of birds, to the livestock. And then from livestock is transmitted to humans through direct contact, particularly during slaughtering the animals. So the direct contact with the fresh blood and fresh fluids from the animals can lead to the transmission of the CCH, or the Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. This problematic disease is there are no specific clinical signs. So the patient will come with fever, headache, a little bit of myalgia, and very quickly some of the patient will collapse to what we call as the hemorrhagic phase. So this stage where there is fever and headache, we call it at the pre-hemorrhagic phase. And if the immunity of the patient, or some people collapse quickly to the hemorrhagic phase, where we have hemorrhages over the mucous membranes, sometimes it becomes really severe. There's epistaxis from the nose, gastrointestinal and urogenital hemorrhages. The high risk group for the Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever are the people who work in the slaughterhouses, abattoirs or slaughterhouses. We have also some cases here in Oman after the Eid al-Adha. Remember in Eid, just before Hajj, we have Eid al-Adha, where people sacrifice the lamb, sheep, and goats. So again, after the Eid, sometimes we have cases of non-specific febrile cases, and now hospitals here in Oman are aware of the problem, and quickly they check for the CCH virus. The fatality rate can reach up to 30% in some cases. In this morning I found a paper. So in Malaysia you have a report on seroprevalence of fever virus in Malaysia in some population, Orange, Asli. To be honest, I'm not sure. So it looks like the virus have, or there was some exposure to the virus in Malaysia as well. The second very important zoonotic disease is the brucellosis. And brucellosis is, I think also it's available in Malaysia. Again, it's a problematic disease here in Oman, mainly because of the culture of drinking unpasteurized fresh camel milk. So people drink fresh camel milk from infected camel with brucella, and then they contract the infection. Brucellosis mainly is called Malta fever. It was originally discovered in Malta Island in the Mediterranean Sea, and Malta is famous with a goat milk cheese, also made from unpasteurized goat milk. So they started to use this unpasteurized milk to produce the cheese, and the cheese transmitted the infection to people. The clinical signs of brucellosis can be really nasty. It can lead to keratitis and uveitis, or problem in the eyes. In females, they can lead to abortion and infertility. In males, they can lead to orchitis and epididymitis, and also sterility. The chronic form of it will lead to severe osteomyelitis and arthritis, and you will see the joints of the patients become bended and fixed, not flexible anymore. The other problem is the management of brucellosis in humans. So the bacteria is intracellular, and it requires a long course of antibiotic to clear the infection. And unfortunately, in 90% of the cases, there will be a relapse for the infection. So controlling the infection is quite difficult and require long-term treatment. The other problem is the mode of transmission. This bacteria can transmit by direct contact with any fluids from the animal. These include the blood, the semen, the after parturition of the animal, all the fluids from the placenta. And if there is a small abrasion in the skin or tiny cracks in the skin, or even the touch, these splashes of fluid touch the mucous membrane, conjunctiva, for example, or the nostril or any mucous membrane, the human will contract the infection. So again, high risk groups, including all veterinary workers and all people who have livestock, so rearing livestock, sheep or goat, can easily transmit the infection. Prevention is a little bit, we cannot say easy, but prevention by wearing the proper equipment, protect your eyes and mucous membranes, can dramatically minimize the infection, particularly for veterinarians, because we have a lot of procedures to do with pregnant animals for diagnosis or for helping dystocia or difficulty in parturition. So they are usually exposed to this brucella. As for drinking unpasteurized milk, it's not so common nowadays, but there are a lot of awareness campaign with the people who use unpasteurized milk to minimize the risk of this problem. Yes. Yes, please, Dr. Faz.
Dr. Faisal, do you have any question for Dr. Haytham? I think it may be by mistake, Dr. Haytham.
Okay, okay, no worries. So another important issue, again here in Oman and global, is the rabies virus. So rabies virus, as you know, is a highly fatal virus that can transmit to humans, and mainly the transmission is through biting. And as you can see from this diagram, the infected animal will bite the human, and based on the location of the bite, there will be the incubation period of the virus. For example, if the animal bite the human in the area of the head and neck or in the jaws, the incubation period or the start of clinical signs will be very quickly, within hours, 6 hours, I think. If it bite in the hand, it will be longer. It requires a longer period to show the clinical signs. Again, a bite in the feet will have a longer duration, up to 2 days, 3 days, until the clinical signs appear. The problem with rabies is once the clinical signs appeared on the human patient, unfortunately the disease is terminal. It will be fatal. There is no management or treatment for this problem. In the early hours, we will talk about the protection, but first I would like to show there is 2 different types of rabies in the world. One we call as sylvatic rabies, and sylvatic rabies means the transmission moves from wildlife to livestock and then to humans. And this is the form that we have here in Oman. The main reservoir for the rabies is the fox. You can see here a picture. Oh, sorry. For a rabid fox biting a camel, and there is what we call as a locked jaw. The animal cannot release the camel because of the nervous signs due to the rabies. In Oman, a common problem is the wild foxes from the mountains will go and bite the livestock, camels and cows, and then the camel will bite the owner and transmit the infection to the humans. This form of transmission is called as sylvatic rabies. The other form of rabies, which is common in most of the Western and European countries and Africa, is we call it as the urban rabies. And urban rabies means the transmission from stray dogs and bats directly to human. So the transmission have either from a reservoir directly, or from a non-reservoir, as in case of the sylvatic. So it will move from foxes to livestock and then to humans. Or we have enzootic transmission, where the cycle of the virus happens between the animals, like the wild dogs. An infected wild dog will bite another wild dog, or infected bat wild another bat. It's important to understand the cycle to prevent the disease. So nowadays, for sylvatic rabies, there are edible vaccine. So you have a bait, like a piece of meat, and you inject it with a vaccine and put it in the areas where foxes are there. And once they eat the vaccine, it will give them immunity against rabies. This will minimize the infection. It was applied in Europe in the forests, and I think now some parts of Europe are rabies free. There is a plan now from the World Health Organization to have a world-free rabies, and I think it's scheduled to be in 2030 to have a world free from rabies. So there are huge or massive vaccination campaigns for wild and stray dogs against rabies. So if you ever exposed to a bite and you suspected a rabies, the rabies virus is a very weak virus, can be easily killed by water and soap. So the World Organization the World Health Organization have the post-rabies exposure prophylaxis by washing the site of injury for 15 minutes with water and soap, followed by disinfectant, and immediately take the rabies immunoglobulins. So in some, for example, all veterinarians in Oman here, and I assume in Malaysia as well, are vaccinated against rabies. They need to renew their vaccine every 5 years. In case of a bite, you need to take immediately the doses of the rabies immunoglobulin. I think now there are 5 doses. The protocol is different from one country to another. It used to be 11 doses. Now I think it became 5 doses. And usually they give it to the patient even if they are not aware if the animal is raped or not. So the protocol here, if you code the animal, we send it to the Central Veterinary Laboratory, and they will diagnose. There is an immunofluorescence technique to see the rabies virus. If it is positive, they will report to the Ministry of Health that this patient was bitten by a rape dog, for example. Okay? And then they will follow the protocol. So another important zoonotic problem is the toxoplasma. And as I told you in the beginning, I'm not sure in Malaysia, but here in Oman, most of the ladies have this passion for cats, to have cats as pet animals. And the problem with cats is mainly the toxoplasma. So cats are the definitive host for toxoplasma, and the transmission happens from the contaminated feed by the feces of infected cat. So if a cat defecated on, let's say, any feed or vegetable, and these vegetables were not washed, and then the human eat these contaminated vegetables, they will contract the toxoplasma. The other route is the animals or livestock will eat the contaminated grass or vegetables with the infected feces, and then the infection will transmit to humans. The implication of transmission is unfortunately really severe. So infected, mainly in ladies, can have a problem with fertility and can have congenital toxoplasmosis in their babies. So as you can see here in the picture, the babies are born with what we call as hydrocephaly or microencephaly. Babies also suffer from mental retardation, cardiomegaly, due to the presence of toxoplasma. Toxoplasma mainly infects the muscular tissue and the brain of the patient, also for the animals. Cats are reservoirs, so they don't show any clinical signs, as well as the rat or mice as intermediate hosts. There are trials for vaccines for toxoplasmosis, but still these trials are not validated properly, or they are not standardized properly to be applied. The easiest way to control it is to carefully, if you have a cat, wash whatever the vegetables or grass or whatever you eat from around this cat should be washed very carefully for consumption. So, to summarize the how to reduce the risk from zoonotic diseases, mainly the first line of defense is to vaccinate your animals. So if you manage to vaccinate these animals, it will completely or minimize the risk of zoonosis. Also, wearing the protective equipment or personal protective equipment, as you can see here, the apron, the masks, gloves, also will minimize the transmission of zoonosis. As I told you previously, in brucellosis, this is a huge problem in the field of animal workers. Anyone who works with cattle or sheep and goats is exposed to brucellosis, and it can be prevented by wearing the proper equipment. Also disinfection and sterilization of both the places and the equipment will minimize the transmission of zoonotic disease. Quarantine, if you are importing any animals, you need to properly apply the quarantine. Also, if you are introducing new animals to your farm or lab or whatever, you need to apply the proper quarantine measure. It's really important, if you are working around animals, to familiarize yourself with the symptoms of animal disease. This will help you also to avoid the animals if you suspected any kind of problem. Another important thing, if you were exposed to any fluids from animals, blood, urine, saliva, you need to properly wash your hand with water and soap and use an antiseptic. This is also really important if you are dealing with animal. And vaccination for the workers. As I told you here, we have a mandatory vaccination for all veterinarians and animal handlers in the clinics to be vaccinated against rabies and against tetanus. And they need to renew the rabies every 5 years. Tetanus, I think every 10 years, you need to take a booster dose. So high-risk groups or people who work in areas that are exposed to problems should be vaccinated. So now we will move to the physical injuries from animals. And again, this is also a problem that face a lot of people who works around animals. For example, if you are conducting an experiment for your PhD or your master's or whatever, and you need to collect samples from the animal, you need to be aware of how to deal with these animals before approaching them. So here you can see on the right, I hope the video is clear. You can see a lady approaching a cow. This cow has just given birth to a calf. It will appear here. And during this period, cows are not aware of what they are doing. They are really aggressive and they can kick pretty strong, leading to severe physical injury. So you don't approach a cow after parturition, even if you know this cow, even if this animal is yours and you have a good relationship, because she can induce severe injury, as you can see in the picture. On the left here, we have in veterinary medicine, part of our work is what we call as semen collection, and we use this for fertilizing other cows. Again, during the during the period of collecting semen, the animals are very vicious and aggressive. And here you can see this is almost 1,000 kilogram, 1 ton bull, and you are dealing with this animal. So you need to be very careful. Also, you need to have good experience wearing proper protective equipment before dealing with these animals to protect yourself. How to control the animals? We have here, first you need to understand cows usually kick to the side. So unlike horses kick backward. Bulls and cows kick more towards the side. The problem is this is a blind spot for the animals. So if they felt threatened, if they hear the voice behind them, sometimes they tend to kick. To handle these cows, we have what we call as a bull ring. I don't know if you can see it in the screen. This is a metal ring that is applied on the nostrils of the animal, and you can pull the animal out of it, and it would induce a little bit of pain, which will make the animal reluctant to kick. For cows, for milking cows, we have what we call as anti-kicking device, and it's a metal bar connected from the hip to the flank region. This is called the flank region, and it's a common issue in dairy cows. Sometimes during milking, they tend to kick to remove the these. I don't know if you have seen it. This milking machine or these cups. So we install this metal device and press it between the hip and flank, and this will prevent the cow from kicking. Here we also have what we call as the nose holder, and this is a kind of device that you hold the nostril of the animal and apply a little bit of pressure, and this will also restrain the animal or minimize its movement. So this is how you can quickly control a cow. For example, if you are doing blood sampling or collecting a fecal sample from these animals, you need to control it before you approach it. Here you can see the proper or some of the physical injuries that can be happen when dealing with horses. Horses are very nice animal, very friendly, unless they are angry. And you can see here the kick. Again, this is a 600 kilogram of muscles that kick, so it can induce a severe injury if you were kicked by a horse. And the other problem with horses is the biting. And biting is mainly a bad behavior. So these horses sometimes develop these biting behavior due to bad management, essentially. The proper way to do it is to understand the language of horses. So horses have clear signs to the people that if they are going to bite, the main signs that you want to keep in your mind is if the animal put its ears backward or retracted its ear backward and starting to push his mouth forward. If you carefully look at this video, you will immediately see the horse draw his ears back and then started to extend his feet. So if you saw any horses with back ears, be prepared. This guy might try to bite you. The other thing is by throwing its rear legs towards you. So every time you move, he will move his back or hind legs towards you. This means he's ready to kick. To control or restrain horses, there are a lot of methods. The common methods are, first you need to use a shoot or a stook, or we call it as a crush, and this will minimize the movement of the horse. Some people use the twitch, so you take a piece of skin or part of the ear and apply pressure on it. This will induce a little bit of pain in the horse and it will minimize the movement. A very common method to restrain the horses, and we use it when we do a minor surgical operation or collecting sample from a vicious horse, is using a wooden twitch. A wooden twitch have a piece of wood with a rope, and you take part of the lips of the upper lip of the animal and apply pressure on it. In this case, the animal it will start first few minutes in pain, but later on they found that it induced what we call as like a morphine-like substance in the horse, and the horse will become very sedated. The drawback of this technique is you don't need to apply the twitch beyond 25 minutes or 30 minutes max. So we use it for very quick procedure. You can also fix one limb of the horse. So if the horse is standing on 3 limbs, it will be very difficult to kick. We have also a chain, metal chain over the nose or over the upper lip. This will distract the horse and minimize its attack. We have also the chemical restraint by applying ketamine, and this will it depends on the dose, but you can sedate the horse or make it calm until you do a certain procedure. Again, for semen collection from horses, I know a little bit. This is a little bit far away from maybe specialty, but it's very important and a very common procedure to collect semen from stallions. Some stallions are very expensive, and they want to sell their semen for reproduction. So you need to have proper equipment like the safety boots, the vests, and the helmets. Again, this guy is almost 600-700 kilograms of strong muscles. So a one kick can be fatal. So always protect yourself when you do such procedures. For dogs, the common problem for dogs, as you know, is biting, and there is an estimate of 4.7 million dog bite in the United States each year. So dog bites for various reasons. Some reasons we know, and some reasons it's just a behavior that we cannot control. Again, you need to understand the language of dogs. If the animal is roaring against you, showing the teeth, hitting his ears backward, this means he doesn't like you. He is most probably will start to bite. So if you're dealing with dogs, again, for any reason, you need to apply a dog muzzle to prevent the biting. And also, if the animal is so aggressive, you can apply a little bit of ketamine or some kind of medication to sedate the animal before applying your procedure. Here again, because we have a lot of camels here in Oman, so the camels also can be really aggressive. They have some canine teeth here, and their bite can be fatal. Also, camel, as you can see, is a massive animal. The best way to handle camel is to get the animal owner or the animal handler. They are the best people who can handle these I call them monsters. The camels also, you can use the muzzle. You can kneel the camel. This is called the kneeling position, where the camel is settled, and you can fix or tie one limb of the animal to fix it until you do your procedure. As I told you, the best thing to restrain a camel is by calling the owner or the animal handler, and he should be standing during the whole procedure. So our almost last part of the lecture, I will go through it very quickly because I'm sure most of you are aware of the PPEs or the personal protective equipments. These are including the gloves, the coats, scrubs, non-sterile gowns, the face protection, mask, and goggles, and the footwear or disposable. Sometimes we have these disposable shoe cover, and all these are called barrier protection. So these will protect you against splashes, against the direct contact with the animal, especially if you are working with infectious agent or infectious material. There are specific procedures how to put on the personal protective equipment and how to take it off. I think you can go through a YouTube and shoot, but this is very important to protect yourself. So, if, for example, if you had your personal protective equipment and these are exposed to an infectious material, there is a proper way to remove it in order to prevent the spillover of infection to a sterile period. So you can, if you are dealing with such a protective equipment, so you need to know how to put it on and how to remove it properly to minimize the infection. So now we will very quickly again we will go through the how to properly wash your hand. I think now we are all expert after the COVID-19, but I just want to stress here on the this graph. This graph show you the areas in red are usually missed during washing your hand. So you need to focus on the areas on red to when you do the washing procedure. As I told you, it's now most of us are aware of the proper way to wash your hand using soap and water, and for how long to rub it. I don't want to extend, but usually you need to go not less than 30 seconds if you are, particularly if you are dealing with animals. We do this exercise for some of our students is to wash your hand and use a UV light. This is a fun thing to do. If you have a UV light around, you can just see your hands without washing, then rinse it, then wash it for 30 seconds. And as you can see, this hand have this fluorescent color due to the presence of dirt and bacteria. And this hand, after 30 seconds of washing with soap, the fluorescence color or this fluorescent material completely disappeared. So you can do this in your lab and see the difference if you have a UV light around. Again, quickly, I will go through the different antiseptics. We are all aware of the 70% rubbing alcohol, and we actually regularly use it now to disinfect our hands. And then we have a more strong antiseptic, which is the iodine and iodophore based. The problem with iodine and iodophore is the staining. It will give a yellow color to your hand. We usually use it for surgical procedures or before applying any surgical technique. These are different forms of alcohol. You have it in spray, in gel, and even now in wipes. And all of them can really disinfect the surface or your hand or some of the tools after the procedure. In our lab, we use the Vircon S. I'm not sure if I think you are aware of it, but this is a very efficient disinfectant. It comes in powder, and you dissolve it in water, and it's very efficient against most of the viruses, bacteria, fungi. If you are doing cell culture, you can even add your or disinfect or sterilize your culture using the Vircon S. Some actually people claim that you can drink water from Vircon S. I'm not sure about it. Don't listen to me, but some people claim that it will make the water sterile and it's safe to be for drinking water. But it's a very common disinfectant that are used in the lab. One of the important things that unfortunately many people neglect it when they have a facility working with animals is the mopping and cleaning, and this can dramatically minimize the contamination in your lab or in your facility. The best to use in the cleaning and mopping is the microfiber. So microfiber have a positive charge. Microfiber cloths or microfiber mops have a positive charge, and using only water can eliminate approximately 98% of bacteria and 93% of the viruses from the surface. So by just utilizing these microfiber clothes, you can achieve this kind of removal. So adding an antiseptic material will dramatically improve the cleanliness of the facility. Particularly if you have a lab animal facility, mice and rat, and you want to apply or improve the cleanliness of the place. Finally, you need to apply or have a biosecurity protocol for your facility. I'm here talking if you have a lab or if you have a small animal facility like rabbit, rat, and mice facility, or even if you have a farm. For example, we have a veterinary or an animal experimental facility here in the university. It includes sheep, goat, cattle, and camels, as well as horses and dogs. We try to apply a strict biosecurity for the entering and exiting cars, as well as for the facilities using these what we call as food paths. And this will minimize the transmission of infection either inside your facility between the bins or from outside the farm to the facility. So there are ready-made protocols you can implement if you don't have one. But again, this will improve the cleanliness and the biosecurity of your facility, and will minimize the transmission of diseases both to animals and to humans. So at the end, I hope this lecture, I know it's a general lecture, but I hope you can get any benefit out of it somehow if you're doing an experiment utilizing animals in your experiment. But to wrap things up, you need to have a proper training if you are dealing with any species of animals. Better to have a proper training or acclimatize yourself when dealing with these animals. You need also to learn deeply about the different hazards, for example, the zoonotic diseases that can be exposed if you are dealing with a certain species of animal, and the proper protective equipment. You can also familiarize yourself with the different personal protective equipment and how to properly use it, particularly if you are dealing with highly infectious virus, or if you are dealing, for example, if you are dealing with avian influenza virus or a Rift Valley fever. These are highly infectious and require a certain protocol to use the PPE in order to prevent contamination of other people. So remember at the end that we are living together, animals with humans, environment. So the proper health of each sector will reflect on the other sector. At the end, I hope I did not exceed my time, hopefully. Thank you so much for being patient and listening to me. These are pictures from the Sultan Qaboos University. This is our Grand Mosque of Sultan Qaboos University. And we have here the Ben Tower. You are always welcome to visit us at the university. Thank you so much. And yes, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Haytham Ali. I will now open the Q&A sessions. You may unmute yourself or type your questions in the chat box. Any questions for Dr. Haytham? Doctor, we have one question
Yes.
from Muhaimin Shukri. Thank you, Doctor, for your insightful sharing. I would like to ask one simple question. With more people shifting towards a plant-based diet, do you think this will have any impact on the possible reduction of zoonotic diseases?
Okay, thank you for the interesting question. I assume that it might, of course, reduce the implication of zoonotic diseases. However, many of the foodborne zoonotic diseases are transmitted from the contamination of fruits. For example, when we talked about the toxoplasma, toxoplasma is one of the major routes of transmission is eating contaminated vegetables and fruits from the market. You know, the wet marks, cats are roaming around, they can shed a little bit of feces on whatever, and you wash your vegetable or fruit improperly, you still can contract the infection. But definitely, if you don't have a direct contact with animals, this will minimize the risk of zoonotic transmission. I hope I answered your question.
Any more questions? For Dr. Haytham, you may unmute yourself. We have one question from Asma Ali Ibrahim. Doctor, you did mention that we can use the UV to decontaminate, but is it safe for the user?
Oh, no, I didn't mean to decontaminate. We use it as a teaching or experiment for the students. So they wear their safety goggles, and then they quickly check their hands under the UV light. You don't expose your hands for a long time, just a quick check, and you see the difference in color between the clean hand and the dirty hand. But we don't use it for sterilizing our hand. UV is very dangerous for your skin, can induce cancers. But as I told you, if a quick experiment just to show the difference between a clean and a dirty hand under the UV light.
We have one question from Dr. Hio. What is the role of Oman in international collaboration to address zoonotic diseases that cross borders in the Middle East region?
Yes, Oman is a part of what we call as the Gulf Union. There is a union here between all the Gulf countries, and also as a part of the World Organization of Animal Health. So by all countries by law need to report any notifiable disease. We have a list of what we call as notifiable zoonotic disease or notifiable infectious diseases for animals. Yeah. For example, I work on a bacterial disease caused by mycoplasma called contagious caprine pneumonia. This is a non-zoonotic disease, but it's a notifiable disease. So if we have a case in Oman, by law, we need to notify the World Organization of Animal Health and notify the surrounding Gulf countries that we have this infection. And notifiable disease means if a country reported a notifiable disease in its own country, there will be some restrictions on importing or exporting animals or animal-related product from this country. And if you do not report the problem or the infectious disease, there will be consequences. The World Organization of Animal Health will apply some restrictions on the country for exporting and importing. So Oman, by default, is part of the World Organization of Animal Health and the Gulf Union. In case of we had a problem once with the MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. I think this was 10 or 15 years ago. And Oman reported an outbreak of MERS with the presence of some human patients in Oman. And this had some implications on the travel restrictions for some people. But again, Oman is very strict by applying the international laws regarding the notifiable disease.
Any more questions? I think that's all. Thank you, Dr. Haytham Ali from Sultan Qaboos University for the very informative talk. We are very thankful for having you here. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Thank you so much for accepting us. It's an honor to have you here. I would also like to thank the online participants. We have quite a number joining us today. Thank you so much. Please do join our upcoming talks as well. I think with that, I'm going to end today's session. Dr. Hugh, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I just want to thank all the online participants as well as Dr. Haytham Ali for accepting our invitation. So we hope to collaborate with you in the future. So thanks so much for your time and effort.
Thank you so much for the invitation and for the nice organization. And I hope the audience have benefited a little bit from my talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Haytham. Assalamualaikum. And thank you to the online participants as well.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.